Sinn Féin the Deputy Kerrane.
Hey, Minister, households up and down the country are facing massive electricity bills this winter. October's bill will land shortly and households are already worried sick at the thoughts of it. We already know that people have been struggling to pay their bills following never-ending hikes over the last 18 months. The facts speak for themselves. There were 715 domestic electricity disconnections in the first half of this year, and that was before many of those hikes kicked in. We also know that 125,000 households are currently in arrears, and that figure is only going to get worse. Your refusal to reduce and to cap electricity prices at pre-crisis levels is a big mistake, and it will leave hard-pressed families and households wide open to further increases and to the possibility of disconnection. As families face into a long winter, they worry that they will not be able to afford to keep the lights on. And I must tell you, Minister, as government there, we do not believe that what's been put in place as regards preventing disconnections are good enough. Your plan to introduce a ban on disconnections from December to February falls far short of what is needed, and people cannot wait until December. They need protection from disconnections right now. What is needed is an immediate ban on disconnections now, and that ban run right through to the end of March for every household in the state. And then we turn to the 346 households that use prepay electricity meters. And despite the Taoiseach's commitment that nobody will be disconnected this winter, we have still not seen any real plan to protect these households from government. We know that once the €20 emergency credit runs out, prepay customers are disconnected by default. The Taoiseach said yesterday that the CRU is looking at waiving the fees for vulnerable customers to change to bill pay. That is only for medically vulnerable customers and not for those in financial hardship. The fees for those to switch to bill pay should be waived for all customers. Households who cannot afford to pay need more than go to the social welfare or go to MABS. They need a specific solution as we come into the winter period. And there are specific solutions that can be brought about if the government will is there to make it happen. As you will know, many suppliers can extend an additional credit. It's sometimes referred to as a friendly credit at weekends and public holidays to prevent disconnections. This already exists. So to protect prepaid customers, this friendly credit should be extended to 24/7 for the extension and the duration of the ban on disconnections. This really is an unprecedented crisis for households, and the government have a responsibility to ensure that all households are protected from disconnection, and there can be no exclusions in relation to this. We've asked the Taoiseach what the plan is. We've asked the Taoiseach what the plan is. And now today I'm asking you as Minister for Public Expenditure to do two specific things that can provide protection and certainty to households. Will you introduce the ban on disconnections to all customers from now until the end of March? And will you guarantee that those that are using prepaid electricity meters are included by extending that friendly credit for the duration of the ban on disconnections?
Thank you very much, Lascian Corla, and thank you, Deputy Kerrane. And I am very conscious, that funerals are taking place again today for 3 of the victims of last Friday's terrible tragedy in Kerrane, and I want to convey my own personal deepest sympathies to all of those who have been bereaved and indeed to the wider community. I know the funeral of James O'Flaherty is taking place at this moment, and this afternoon the funeral mass will be held for Catherine O'Donnell and her 13-year-old son James Monaghan, ar yesterday Grev Anonimica. Deputy Kerrane, thank you very much for raising the issue of the cost of living, and in particular the issue of the vital continuation of electricity supply for households all over Ireland. And the first thing I want to say is acknowledge that a lot of people are very worried because the level of inflation is at a 40-year high. We've had a raft of utility bill increases announced, which in many instances have only kicked in recent weeks, and this coincides with a time when people are going to be using more energy, when the days are shorter, when the nights are getting colder, and that is why the government has responded in what we believe is a very fair and a genuine way in the context of the budget that we announced just 2 weeks ago, an overall budget package of €11 billion. I know that for individuals in apartments and in houses all over the country, what they want to know is what it means for them. Talking about billions is of little comfort when you're worried about the next bill, and the government completely understands that. And that is why yesterday Minister Humphreys and I put the flesh on the bones and laid out the specific payment dates for a whole range of payments through the social protection system that amount to some €1.2 billion starting next week, which will conclude in early December, for people who are among the most vulnerable, for older people, for people who are living alone, for carers, for people on disability allowance, on invalidity, for working family payment recipients who are low-income working families. And of course we're going much further than all of that in the budget as well, with increases in core weekly rates that will kick in on the 1st of January, with an expansion of the eligibility for the fuel allowance for about 80,000 plus pensioners, and indeed for others who are on low levels of income as well. In addition, of course, we have the three €200 electricity credits. We have the rental tax credit this year and next year. We have a significant income tax package that will benefit hundreds of thousands of workers all over Ireland. And then the once-off reduction in the SUSI fee, the improvements in the maintenance grants, the reduction in childcare that will commence next year, the free books at primary level, the extension of GP visit cards to hundreds of thousands of people, the elimination of hospital charges, the extension of reduced public transport fares, and so on. And that is just to give an overview of the range of measures that we are funding with that overall package. But you do raise a specific issue, Deputy, which I know is of concern to many people. As you know, the one-month pause in disconnections generally for non-payment has been extended from 1 month to 3 months. And you are correct in saying that for vulnerable customers, the pause in disconnections for non-payment has been extended to 6 months. And as the Taoiseach said yesterday, work is being progressed by the CRU, the regulator, to waive the fee to enable people to switch from pay-as-you-go to bill pay in order to avail of the protections that are available there for vulnerable customers. In addition, the CRU has directed that all customers with a financial hardship meter, so pay-as-you-go customers, must be placed on the cheapest tariff available from their supplier from the 1st of December. Individual utility companies all have specific hardship funds that are available as well. A change has also been made to the amount of a payment that has to go to legacy debt reduction. So a reduced amount now has to go towards legacy debt reduction as opposed to paying for new supply and paying for energy that continues to be provided. And of course we are continuing to fund MABs, we're continuing to fund our interior offices through the exceptional needs payment, and I can respond further in a moment.
Just
Thanks,
before
Les.
we move on, could we all just take a second to check our phones? I just got a bad feeling myself in relation to my phone, but please, let's check all our phones. On silent. Thanks. Dr. Kerrane.
And just like the Taoiseach yesterday, when we raised the need for a ban on evictions to keep people in their homes, you spent most of your response reiterating what was in the budget, and parts of what was in the budget, particularly for those on fixed incomes who rely on social welfare, is welcome, and I've welcomed some of that. But we are talking about households who face disconnection. 715 households have already been disconnected in the first part of this year alone, and that is before we get to the winter period at all. We don't have certainty in relation to the timeline for the electricity credits, and of course we would have taken different steps and made different decisions to provide certainty to households. And for the vast majority of people and households, they do not receive the fuel allowance, so they are being left extremely vulnerable by the fact that they don't have supports in relation to energy prices, which are increasing, and they do not have as easy access as government contend in relation to accessing the additional needs payment, which are taking between 5 to 8 weeks for decisions. Now, if you have a utility bill, you can't wait 2 months for a decision and for emergency financial assistance. I'm speaking specifically about a ban on disconnections for households and those on prepaid meters, 346,000 households, who will take no comfort from your response.
Thank you, Deputy. Well, I mean, the reality is that when you look at this in the round, first of all, for bill pay customers, you have that 3-month period where there cannot be a disconnection for non-payment. For vulnerable customers, that has been increased to 6 months. I've outlined a whole series of interventions that have been made to assist pay-as-you-go customers, and we acknowledge that they are in a different situation and they are in a more vulnerable situation, because in the absence of anything else happening, if their credit is gone, then the power essentially stops. There should be no reason why anyone this winter, because of reasons to do with financial hardship, loses their power supply. And you have to, I think, look at this in the round through all of the interventions that we are making, all of the cash supports that are being made available to the most vulnerable households all over Ireland, in addition to the strengthening of protections being introduced as a result of the work that the regulator is doing. And Minister Ryan continues to engage with them. But we certainly do not want to see any vulnerable household lose their electricity supply this winter. We do not believe that that should happen. We believe that sufficient supports have been put in place to prevent that situation from occurring. Thank you.